Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Joseph Parker has fronted the media in New Zealand for the first time since his somewhat controversial loss to Dillian Whyte on July 28th. The media session, it's also coincided with a controversy that's bubbled up in New Zealand about Parker's appearance at a New Zealand school. So there's been claims of racial and gender exclusion levelled at Parker. So I've got a statement from Parker's promoter on that. Also, while we're talking Joseph Parker, at the end of the video, I'll give my quick thoughts on any potential matchup with Lucas Browne, because I've got to say, it's something that's been growing on me a little bit since Browne sort of put that out there on social media. I'm warming up to it. But first, from the media session, Parker is quoted by stuff.co.nz as saying in relation to his trainer Kevin Barry, "I love the work that Kevin gives, and I know he gives 110% in training. I'm not quite sure why he is getting criticised. It's a team effort." Parker says the fight plan was proven in the first two rounds, saying, "We were doing really well, good movement, punching well, and combinations to the head and body. But then the headbutt changed how the fight went. I'm not complaining, I'm not making excuses, but that's the obvious thing that happened. I was fit to go 12 rounds, I was fit to throw a lot of punches, but a few things in the fight caused a bit of discomfort and changed the course of the fight. I believe I'm still at that level. The fight could have been different. I could have knocked him out at the end and it could have been a different result. But credit to him, he's a tough fighter and he showed a lot more mongrel than I did. I feel I belong at the top. I just need things to click a bit better when I'm in the ring. Now that I have two losses and I have a short time to get back to the top, it's time to give everything and leave everything there. It's time to flick the switch and be the best and most ruthless Joseph Parker there can be. I have to improve on that. I have to improve on the wrestling. I have to improve on the grappling. This is probably the first hard fight that I've been involved in, and I got a knockdown. A lot of people are saying I should retire and finish boxing. I'm only 26. My goal is to finish at 30, so I still have a bit of time to get back to the top. That's my goal, to be champion of the world again, to be unified champion. I respect everyone's opinion. They're entitled to it, but for me, I'm not ready to retire. I'm not ready to finish. And Joseph Parker, he's also indicated he'll be maintaining his fitness. He's been out running and such, and he hopes to fight again at the end of this year. Okay, so there is certainly a bit to unpack there. So I'll first start with the elephant in the room, which is Kevin Barry and Joseph Parker, their relationship in terms of trainer and fighter. So it does look like they're going to be intertwined for the foreseeable future. And that's not exactly a news flash, it's already been indicated. But I was surprised that Joseph Parker cannot understand why Barry is getting some criticism. And he said it himself, it's a team effort. So surely that means that Barry needs to take his share of the blame, shoulder some of the blame when things go wrong, not just take the credit when things go right. And the question from fans of Barry is that, has he taken Parker as far as he can go? Has he got as much out of Parker as he can? Because Parker's progress, as we've noted, it does appear to have levelled off in the past couple of years. It sort of has plateaued, and some of his bad habits and areas where he needs to improve, they aren't getting better. And we're talking things like, throwing the jab consistently for more than a couple of rounds. That's fixable. As is keeping his hands up, throwing more combinations, following the game plan. Some of that stuff is coachable and fixable. And you've probably noticed in many of his recent fights as well, Parker does seem to go off the boil for stretches. He seems to go in some sort of autopilot mode for a number of rounds. And those rounds are usually when he's not as high volume, the hands are down, he looks very one-paced, and he's sort of throwing single shots or the odd one too. And we keep hearing from Kevin Barry after fights that Parker hasn't followed the game plan, and he can't throw punches for Parker. And he's been deflecting and putting it all back on Parker. But if Parker is unable to follow the game plan, does that mean that the game plan is not quite right? that maybe it needs to be different. Maybe he needs to work more to the strengths and to what Parker can do in there. And what I'm really trying to get at here is Kevin Barry can't just absolve himself of all responsibility if Parker doesn't perform. Just sort of saying I can't throw the punches for Joseph Parker, that doesn't really cut it with me. But, we'll have to see where things go with this trainer-fighter relationship. Obviously, very close, and they're looking to fight by the end of the year. Okay, next. In regards to the head clash in the second round. So Joseph Parker says he's not complaining about the loss. He's not making excuses. I would be more inclined to believe that if Parker's promoter hadn't have publicly stated that they were looking to appeal the result, with the head clash being central to that appeal. There has been a number of comments left in some of my recent comment sections that say, well, this isn't Joseph Parker behind the appeal. He wouldn't be behind this. It's all his promoter's fault. But given how much the word team is thrown around and how close they are and how involved in the decision-making that Joseph Parker is, you better believe he was aware that they were going public, and he must have given his agreement that, they were going to potentially look at putting an appeal in to try get the result overturned. And it is naive to think otherwise. If he was against an appeal, he could have shut it down at this media session. He could have said, actually, look, we are just going to move on. But he didn't. In relation to his comment that I just need to click better when I'm in the ring. Well, this is actually a bit of a well-worn sort of comment. We've heard very similar things before. He really hasn't turned in a vintage performance since he's reached the elite level. And that's obviously had some people asking, well, does he have it in him? Or has he just maxed out at this level? He is going to be a sort of perennial contender, but maybe he doesn't quite have any more to give. I sort of look at it and go, he's got a very good tool set. He's got very good speed. He's very athletic. He does a lot of good in the ring. And the fact that he's only 26 and he's been able to foot it at world level, just went 12 with Anthony Joshua early in the year. Even if the performances haven't been great at times and they've been a bit ugly, he's shown that he's got a boatload of talent. And I've said previously, he's sort of become a little bit of a master of winning ugly. And obviously that hasn't quite worked in the last couple of fights, but you get what I'm talking about. And I'm willing to believe that, there is more to come from Joseph Parker, that perhaps the best of Joseph Parker is yet to come. But this next comment where he says, it's time to flick the switch and be the best and most ruthless Joseph Parker. Well, that is more of the same sort of rhetoric that we've heard ahead of a number of fights where it's sort of talked up large and I'm going to be better and do things different. The question that I ask is, if there is in fact a switch to be flicked, what's the problem with it not being flicked previously? He's been talking about going up a gear and he hasn't been able to find it. So what is to make us believe that he can automatically just flick it down and, magically make it happen? I think a number of us, we've had our doubts about, some of these things about the ruthlessness, how much mongrel Joseph Parker has or can exercise in the ring. And is it something that can be trained into him? And I think the jury is very much out on that one. Okay, next issue. As I mentioned earlier, Parker, he's been inadvertently caught up in an uproar over a visit to Wanganui High School in New Zealand. So a promotional flyer, it had described the event that Parker was attending this month as a closed motivational session for Māori and Pacifica boys and their fathers. Television New Zealand reported it sparked outrage among some parents and residents who did interpret that as barring girls and male students from non-Māori and non-Pacifica backgrounds from attending. Some of the initial reporting, it quoted the school board as claiming it was actually Parker's team who requested the event be closed. So as you can imagine, this sort of issue, it ends up being one of these things that people just love to get outraged about. People up in arms causing a stir, talkback radio sort of fodder. But Parker's team, it's now sought to shut it down, putting out a statement in the name of David Higgins, which says, I can confirm I've had a fruitful conversation with Wanganui High School principal Martin McAllen this afternoon. We very quickly cleared up any misunderstandings around Joseph's planned visit to the school, and both parties are now on the same page. We've expressed that we would like a more inclusive event that was originally proposed, and the school is very much open to that. We now look to firm up the details of Joseph's visit to the school, which is something he is very much looking forward to. So they've very much tried to square that one away, stick a pin in it, sort of stem the tide of the coverage. But however this sort of issue came about, it is certainly some egg on face that could have been avoided with a little bit more thought. But they've put it right, and the putting right, it does count for something. And just on Lucas Brown and Joseph Parker and any potential fight between the pair. I mean, we know Brown is loving that idea, saying on social media he would welcome that fight with 1 or 2 warm-up fights and then have it. So I'm actually starting to warm up to the idea of it as well. And it's more from the perspective that Joseph Parker, he needs a good win, and especially coming off these 2 losses that he's had to Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte. And building a trans-Tasman clash between Parker and Brown, it's still going to draw some interest. And in terms of a payday, outside of another fight on an Eddie Hearn card, a fight with Brown, it could actually likely be one of the most lucrative deals that would be available to Joseph Parker right now in his career. Plus, you could stage it either in New Zealand or Australia, and it would certainly get some sort of Southern Hemisphere eyeballs, especially, in the Oceania region on that fight. And you'd heavily favour Joseph Parker to spark out Lucas Brown. If Dillian Whyte can do it, Joseph Parker can too. What would you make of that fight if it did get made? I think it would be a good confidence booster, be a good sort of, fight just to get the wheels turning again for Joseph Parker, get that win in the win column. What would you make of it? Also, what do you think of Joseph Parker being defiant, sticking with Kevin Barry, saying, look, he's doing a great job. It's not him. It's not Kevin Barry. He's part of the team. He's helping me get it done. Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.